Hi, my name's Glenn Hasselman. I'm just making this video for the users of free accounting software to show you guys some differences with the BAS lodgement where the BAS is on a cash basis. So I didn't cover this in the previous activity statement video, but I'll cover it here. So I'll just go into the sales worksheet and show you some of the data. In fact, I should also say that this really only applies to a BASOF hosted file rather than a FAS3 desktop locally stored file, because in FAS3 desktop you don't have accounts receivable. So what goes on the BAS is simply what you enter between those dates. But in BASOF it handles your accounts receivable, and so this video is just for FAS3 desktop users who are using BASOF hosted files, or BASOF web browser based users who are, but it's a different user interface, but same concept. Now I'm going to do the December quarter BAS, and there are these 3 sales in December. None of them have any cash received against them. Okay, they're all entirely outstanding. So let's go and have a look at the activity statement. And the December activity statement is the one that I'll be doing. If I go into it, at first when you go into the activity statement it doesn't display any transactions. And I'll just go and have a look at the activity statement here. And in the header of the activity statement here, which you can see by clicking this link, which it says hide header detail. Initially for you it'll say show header detail, and you can see the header of the document. There is this header here. It says cash method used, and it's set to true. Okay. Now if you want to change that, if it's false and you want it to be true, or true and you want it to be false, you have to contact the ATO. They will they can change your reporting method and then possibly reissue the BAS or change it for future BASs. You cannot change that yourself within the software. Okay, so now let's go and have a look at the transactions. Now, as I explained in the previous video, you generate the transactions by clicking this regenerate transactions button. There is a parameter here to include unreported transactions for prior months, so if you miss transactions you can bring them in. I explained that in the prior video. For the purposes of this demonstration I'm just going to set it to none, okay, and click generate or regenerate transactions. And you can see that that has generated no transactions. Why? Because all of those sales completely outstanding, no cash received. So let's go and enter a cash received against one of those sales and see how that changes things. Okay, so I'm just entering new transaction, putting a cash received. Now the date of the transaction will have to be within the December quarter. So I can just put 31st of December and that's fine. If you receive an invoice in December that was invoiced prior to December, it will still bring it into the December BAS. So anyway, I'm going to select the customer there, and there's a few invoices outstanding there, and let's just put some cash against the first one here. You have to delete the blank line here, it doesn't like that, so delete that one and then click save. Okay, so we now have entered a cash received against that invoice, which is invoice number 11 you go to the sales worksheet, invoice 11 will not be displayed there anymore. If we want to see it, we can click to view some of the month's history and click update, and you can see there is invoice 11 there, and the cash received against it is there. Okay, now let's go and see what happens when we generate the BAS. So going into the BAS and clicking generate transactions, and now we get that sale. So that's the basics of how it works. It only will put the sale on there when the cash is received. But the situation can have a couple more complexities as always, and so let's look at that. So going back to the sales worksheet, and we have another sale in December, which is document number 6. So let's enter some cash received on that one. New transaction, cash received, date it in December. So for example, if I was to date this as like the 10th of January, that would not go on this December BAS. The cash received has to be in December. So I don't think I really need to demonstrate that, but I'll just put December there. Pick up the customer, and that was document number 6 we're talking about, so here it is. Now, sometimes your customer might not pay you the full amount of the invoice. They might pay half of it or something like that. So let's see what happens. I'll just put $20 against this invoice. And again, we've got to delete this blank line on the cash received and then save. Okay. Now, if we go back to the sales worksheet to view this, in this case we don't need to view additional history. It's already going to be displayed here because we haven't fully received the cash. In fact, okay, so there's the sale and there's the cash received. So going to the activity statement, going into the December one, and we can keep re-clicking this regenerate transactions and see what it does. Okay, so here is the sale now being generated on this activity statement. Notice that the sale is on this at the full amount. Okay, so we only received $20 against this sale or against this invoice, but the invoice is $55 and it's put the full $55 on here. The reason it does this is because we are linking transactions to the BAS that they're lodged on. Now, this means that the transaction that the GST is on, or this GST payable of $5 is attached to, is actually the sale, okay, not the cash received. So, whilst it might be possible to apportion the sale, that would result in a level of complexity that is more than it's worth. Okay, so it puts the whole sale on there. If you can imagine a situation where you had a sale, some GST free, some GST taxable components, and then a partial payment against it, and apportioning that, and then maintaining the unreported part of that sale to be reported on the next BAS, or maybe even another BAS after that, the level of complexity will just be a lot more than what it's worth. So the software attaches the sale to the BAS, but the date that it's working off is the cash received date rather than the original sales invoice date. And that's why you see this. If you don't want that transaction on the BAS, there is, or don't want it fully on the BAS, there's two things you could do. One is you could you could do a journal or something like that. Okay, so if this was a really large sale, like $100,000, it would be worthwhile to split up the journal or do a separate journal to get the right amount on the BAS. Okay. Another thing you could do is, look, let's say it was the customer had paid 1 cent. So it was a trivial kind of payment, and you didn't want to put it on the BAS, or some other reason that it shouldn't really be on the BAS. You can select it and you can click remove selected transactions from BAS, and that's fine. That will go onto your next BAS. Okay, so there's two ways to handle that, but the point there is that that transaction or that sale needs to be either on your BAS or off your BAS. It can't be apportioned. That's basically it. I think it's probably worthwhile demonstrating maybe one other thing, where if the sale is in a prior quarter, but the cash received is in this quarter, then how does that go? So to do that, for example, let's go and go back to the sales worksheet. Now, in this case, let's consider maybe this 30 September sale, document number 2 for $150. Let's consider that sale, the cash received for that sale happened in the December quarter. Okay, so let's do the transaction. And there it is. And I'll just make the full receipt, and actually almost forgot to change the date. So put that on the any date will do, 20th of December, and click save. Oh, hang on, transaction line is missing an account. Yeah, that's this bottom one. Ticket, delete the line, and then save. Okay, cool. So going to the sales worksheet just to see what we've got there, get a bit of history so we can see it. We've got the original September sale and the cash received. Original sales dated 30th of September and the cash received is on the 20th of December. Okay, now going to the activity statement, and this will be a bit of a trick for you. Generate transactions. Okay, we've re-clicked generate transactions, so the $55 comes up. Where is the 150? Okay, now the system is smart enough to know that the $150 was already reported on the September BAS, and it's not going to put it onto this BAS because it's already been paid. So let's have a look at that. Go to the activity statement list, go into the September BAS, and this is what I did in the previous video, and that's it there. Okay, so is this an unrealistic situation? No, it's actually not, because what can happen is that businesses can change their accounting method. So you might be on an accruals basis and then one day decide, hey, look, a lot of customers are taking 30 days to pay and I'm out of pocket for this GST. I want to switch to a cash basis. So you can make that change, switch to a cash basis, and the system is not going to put all of your outstanding or previously paid sales GST onto the next BAS as well. And I think that would probably be a problem for most systems without transaction to activity statement linking, because you're essentially just running a report for that 3 months, and that report will just say what is entered within that 3-month period. It won't know that that transaction has already been put on this BAS. So the system's pretty smart like that. But what I'll just show you a trick here to so that I can demonstrate what would happen if you were continuing with the cash basis, is I'll just select this transaction and click remove from BAS. So even though this BAS is lodged, you can actually still tinker around with the with it, and it's probably not the you don't want to do that if you've actually balanced it, you've lodged the BAS and all this kind of stuff, because that will muck things up quite a bit. But just for this demo, I'll do it. So I'll remove that transaction from the BAS. It's no longer on this BAS. Okay, and I'll go to the December one and then click generate transactions, and there it is. So notice that I had no additional months of history. I'm just generating transactions for this quarter. Even so, it has brought in this September transaction because the cash received date is in December, so it makes it in this quarter. Okay, I think that deals with all of the issues to do with the cash basis of reporting your business activity statement. I hope the video has been useful to you, and thanks for watching.